Now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Asuu's protracted strike has been referred by the federal government to the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, NICN, for resolution. This came after attempts at communication between the union and the Federal Ministry of Education failed. The government requested an order of the court allowing Asuu members to resume work in their respective universities while the issues in contention were being addressed by the NICN in compliance with the requirements of Section 18, subsection 1B of the TDA Cap T8 LFN 2004. The demand was stated in a referral instrument addressed to the Registrar of NICN dated September 8, 2022 and signed by Senator Chris Ngige, the Minister of Labour and Employment, according to a statement by Olajide Oshundun, the Head, Press and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment. Still talking national matters, Nasir Isakwara, the chairman of the National Population Commission, has expressed concern about the delay in acquiring the supplies needed for the 2023 population and housing census. He said the delay might affect the commission's planning while speaking in Abuja at a workshop on procurement techniques for the commission's staff. Based on our trial census experience, early preparation, especially on recruiting and the use of our equipment, is very crucial to the success of the 2023 population and housing census, he said. We really need to buy these goods so that they may be used for training, he further stated. Away from there now to the international scene, in retaliation for a quick weekend onslaught by Ukrainian forces that forced Russia to vacate its main base in the Kharkiv region, Russia was accused by Ukraine of destroying civilian facilities. According to the Ukrainian officials, the retaliatory assaults, which resulted in widespread outages, targeted water facilities and thermal power station in Kharkiv. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, posted a message on Twitter late on Sunday that read, "No military facilities. The purpose is to deprive people of light and heat." End of quote. And that's about the latest news making the rounds, talking about the global, sphere. Thanks for staying with us. It's still IBrandTV, and it's time to review some top stories making our national dailies this morning. Now we'll have to begin with the Punch paper. The headline here reads, Federal government may lose 7.58 trillion naira to contract disputes and damages. That top story is on page 3 of the Punch paper. I have various stand first to read. The first being firm demands $2.3 billion for alleged Mambilia contract breach, files fresh $400 million suits. You also have most cases against government due to officials' negligence, poor handling, and that's according to SANS. You also have Buhari administration has capacity to overturn cases against the government, and that's according to the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. To the masthead of the paper now, you have federal government loses 13.21 million barrels of oil worth 603 billion naira in 2022 alone. That story you can find on page 19 of the Punch. On page 8 has to do with medical matters. 500 senior doctors left Nigeria, and that's according to the medical body. Education matters on page 13. SANS profs to defend Asuu before industrial court. More of that you can find on page 13, as I stated earlier. On page 23, you have total manufactured goods fall 36%. Inflation may worsen. You also have gunmen attack Ifeanyi Ubah's convoy. Cops feared killed. That story is on page 14. And on pages 4 and 5, you have Lagos school fence collapses, kills 2 pupils. Quite a sad incident right there. And the bottom strip of the Punch paper, you have tributes as Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrives Edinburgh. Moving away from there, let's take now the Nation paper. The headline here reads, for the Nation, 210 days after, federal government asks court to stop Asuu strike. Plaintiff seeks order against lecturers to resume for work. That story you can find on page 4 of the Nation. To the masthead of the paper, you have 6 feared killed in attack on Ubah's convoy. That's on page 5. On page 5 as well, you also have judicial matters. Supreme Court depleted as Justice Aboki retires. And on page 6, you have Brazilian returnee excretes 92 wraps of cocaine. NCDC, 36 monkeypox cases recorded in 1 week. And you have A 19-year-old student commits suicide. That's a sad story on page 6. Bandits demand 50 million naira to free woman. That story is also on page 6, talking about security matters. To the bottom strip of the Nation paper, you have wanted Nigerian risks 621-year jail term over alleged $30 million fraud. That's on page 6. Not looking good for Nigeria in terms of public image. Will retire political tourist article to Dubai. And that's according to the APC's running vice presidential candidate Shatima. Ruling party divisionary says PDP's campaign spokesman. More of those party politics matters you can find on page 4 of the Nation. And the final story making the front page of the Nation, still on page 4, is Nigeria's debt stocks hit 45.25 trillion naira. Now we move away from there and we move straight to the Guardian. The headline here on the Guardian reads, Ekiti Oshun polls, more questions trail INEC server hacking claims. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian. Stand first to the stories. To the story rather, Oni, we are vindicated. Ekiti election came short of what it should be, and that's Oni, the SDP candidate there speaking. Cyber attacks a common phenomenon in digital age. That's according to Aware. No server is hack-proof, says Atcon boss. Nigerians need guarantee 2023 elections will be free, fair, Amadi Uwaje insists. Development, a danger capable of stirring post-election crisis, and that's according to Okons. And you have Benue State Governor Otom, federal government must not meddle in INEC affairs. The final stand first to that story is NCC CSIRT alerts Nigerians to Google Chrome extension malware. Now you also have over 500,000 expired containers litter Nigeria pose environmental risks. That story is on page 6. Still on the Guardian paper, aviation workers issue 14-day ultimatum, begin protest against anti-labor clauses. That story you can find on page 3. So the bottom strip of the Guardian, you have Nigeria records spike in monkeypox Lassa fever cases. That health matter you have on page 3. On page 3 as well, you have services, tributes, as Queen Elizabeth II makes final journey from Balmoral. You have on page 23, Flutterwave secure switching, processing and licensing. That's on page 23. The final story on the Guardian is on page 45 and has to do with health matters. Why our doctors, nurses are in high demand abroad, and that's by Fabonwo. And we'll wrap up the newspaper review segment with the Business Day paper in terms of reviewing our headlines. It's about business news at this time. For the Business Day, the headline here reads, more pain for Nigeria as villagers besiege 300,000 barrels per day pipeline. And that's talking about pipe vandalism. That story is on page 38 of the Business Day paper. You also have 160 days to polls. Buhari sets up another advisory group on economy. You have presidential candidates contact World Bank, IMF on Nigeria's economic woes. More of that on page 39 of the Business Day. Nigeria starts slowly to close gap between forex rates. That's also on page 38. 2023, observers worry over PDP as party insists on IU. That's party politics there on page 39. And the final major story making the Business Day front page is on page 34, and that's Atedo Peterside says our leaders have been lying to us, but this time the youths are ready to say never again. Thanks for staying with us. It's still IBrand Daybreak, and it's time to delve into the conversation for the day. But now I'm being joined by Margaret Okpara. Margaret, good morning.
Good morning, Samson. Glad to be here with you this beautiful Monday morning.
Yes.
A rainy Monday morning, I must say.
Rainy? I mean, overnight. It rained for hours.
And the roads are blocked, traffic congested, flooded, and still talking about the flood in Lagos. But then we'll discuss that later on. But that's
it's good to have you here.
Yeah,
you
good
know?
to see you, Samson. Thank you for holding it down for me.
I mean, it's what we do.
Yeah. All right, now let's go straight into it, Samson.
Yes. So we'll delve into the conversation of the day right about now. Now, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, on Saturday said the United Kingdom under the late Queen Elizabeth II stood by Nigeria during Tory times. He said the UK during the Civil War between 1967 and 1970 supported the unity of Nigeria, adding that the Queen visited the country twice before her demise. The president spoke during a condolence visit to the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Katrina Liang, at a residence in Abuja on Saturday. He was represented by the Secretary to the State Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. Aside other allegations of Africa-wide exploitation, many on social media accused the late Queen and Britain of unfairly arming and supporting the General Yakubu Gowon's federal government side against the Colonel Chukwuemeka Ojukwu's led secessionist Biafra in a war that claimed the lives of more than 3 million people. Now, joining us to discuss this and more is Mazi Chinedum Obiora, a public affairs analyst who joins us virtually via the phone. Mazi, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Samson and Margaret. It's my pleasure. Thank you for bringing me in. Thank you for the day. We bless God for everything. It has been a rainy day today.
It has.
We give Him the glory.
Yeah. It has. I will trust you're keeping warm. Well, let's,
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay.
It's raining, but then that's what no one can do. Shower of blessing.
Okay, let's begin the conversation with your reaction to the Queen's demise. How did that hit you as a human being, as a Nigerian, and as an Igbo man?
First and foremost, thank you once again. I think my heartfelt sympathy and condolences goes to the family and the entire world over the death of the Queen Elizabeth II.
The second.
So it was a great loss, and I want to say that relationship is far more important than possession. When you lose a beloved one, you will realize that relationship is much better than possession. Having said that, we all sympathize with the British government and the family of the Queen. But as an Igbo man, you ask me, want to drag me to what I don't want to say, but I will say it. Yes, I read the report of Professor
Asuu, yes?
Yes, who actually came boldly to say there's nothing to celebrate or nothing to even sympathize about it. But then, as human beings, we have to mourn with those that mourn and rejoice with those that rejoice. Queen Elizabeth has been an entry of peace and unity, to my honest understanding, until the beginning of the Civil War.
Okay.
So I think, in a nutshell, people are not happy, especially the Southeast, are not happy with the role she played, especially during the Civil War. And up till now, the British government colonized Nigeria.
Yes.
And and what have they done to assist Nigeria come out of this evil predicament we have been passing through since 1990 now?
Okay.
Yeah, especially in the last 7 years. What have they done? Secondly, Nnamdi Kanu is their citizen,
yes,
is their son. And he was in their country. From there, he traveled to Kenya and was kidnapped, manhandled, tortured, and brutally returned to Nigeria. And the whole world have been watching, thinking that British will come up to condemn it and to ask Nigeria, what did our son do? The offense they accused Nnamdi Kanu was not committed in Nigerian soil.
Yeah.
It was committed in Britain. So why have they closed their mouth? What have they done? Even ordinary representatives, they've not sent. They've not even asked the federal government some questions. The ones who have been here are not from the British government. So that is my point. Then on the Civil War.
Yes.
On the Civil War, Professor Uju said that there's nothing to celebrate. We have about 56 Commonwealth nations that needed peace.
Yes.
How fair has this Queen been? How fair? We need fair treatment. During the Civil War, there was a meeting scheduled in Ghana between Ojukwu and Gowon to iron it out to avoid the calamity.
Before the Civil War.
because of the selfish and greed nature of the British, because they know what is obtainable or was obtainable then in the south, the east, they influenced Gowan not to accept, rather to go into the war. They supported Nigeria to make sure that Biafra, the Igbos, and the southeast, the then south was subdued, and that is the punishment we are going through today.
Okay.
The southeast has been now seen as slaves, as war prisoners, or prisoners of war. So that is how we are being treated. The Igbos are being treated. But then,
yes.
What did they do? And were they not supposed to play a fatherly and motherly role?
Okay,
were they not supposed to call the two parties into a negotiation table to find a lasting solution? They didn't do it. Instead, they left the Biafrans to suffer in hunger, to suffer in all manner of malnutrition. That is the anger. That is the position an Igbo man sees it.
Okay, Martin, now do you think with the side of the Queen and what's the allegations in social media of her contribution to with Yakubu Gowon as a point against the Biafra people, do you think if she had come in, like you said, playing a motherly role, it would have helped in having the Biafra country in itself? And do you think that would have been a good thing to look at currently in Nigeria?
Definitely yes.
So you think it would have been a nice idea if we have Nigeria and Biafra currently, if the Queen had supported that move?
No, let me tell you that. Like I said, the British colonized Nigeria. And this war or the misunderstanding or disagreement was between two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
The responsibility of a father or a mother is to call the two parties together and say, what is the problem? Sort it out. What was the Igbo say that injustice, the massacre, the genocide meted to the Igbos during the Civil War, or even in the North, between 1966 and 1967, from 1966, 1967 to 1970. Remember how the Igbos were massacred in the North, Sokoto, Kano, Kaduna, even Benue State, Makurdi. Some Igbos that were translating from those lands, they were waited at Makod at that bridge, and they were slaughtered while in train. So if the Queen had played a motherly role, it would have averted it. What were they fighting for? Was not injustice that was some. That injustice that we failed to address then is still playing out now. And that is what Ngige is saying. And nobody has listened to Ngige. Injustice has been the problem in Nigeria. Tribalism, injustice, nepotism, and what have you. It has not been addressed, assuming the Queen has listened to them. God Gowon, God Jugu, let us reason together. Address injustice. I think the Civil War would have averted.
All right, I quite understand your point on this because you are quite an elderly figure and probably you witness all of these things firsthand. But the Queen ruled for 70 years and was one of the longest serving British monarch, and all of those things has happened in the past, and we saw a lot of them come up, these statements on social media come up when she passed on. So if all of those things came up maybe before her passing on, do you think that would have been a way to solve probably she or the British Empire having to talk about these things and being at peace with Nigeria? Because now a lot of Nigerians are saying the Queen did this, there's no point mourning the Queen. That's after she's passed on. So currently, do you think if probably there was this outburst came up earlier, it would have solved a lot of things rather than it coming now? Because it may seem really counterproductive. Don't you think so?
Well, it is crying over spilled milk, and there's nothing that will be done. She was on the throne for 70 years, and I remembered in 1960, in 1960 during the independence, she was the one who handed over the baton of leadership to Tafawa Balewa. And the Northerners, the Fulanis, thought that she handed over Nigerian affairs, Nigerian territory to Fulanis, to the Northerners. So assuming a voice was raised while she was alive, And but who will do that? It's a war power. Who will listen? Would that person not be subdued? But having said that, he's crying over a spilled milk. That nothing will happen. But then it's a call. The new king now, King Charles III. I think with these, allegations and complaints coming up now, if I were him, I would go back and say the issue of genocide being cried about by the Southeast should be looked into. Compensation should be made to them. It should be a voice to say, Nigeria, let these people be on their own if they will not be treated fairly. I think that is the way I'm looking at it. Whether King Charles will do that. Let there be fairness in this country. After all, they colonized us. But they are here, injustices are the order of the day in the country. If I were advised, I would say, look, where the child is crying and pointing at, look towards that. There must be something.
Well, Mazi, Nigeria has been a republic since 1963, and there's little in terms of dictating now in that sense, what the king can do in addressing these issues. Probably, yes, a formal apology for the role, played by the UK or, the royal family during the civil war in Nigeria. But in terms of influencing the decision, as you are similarly insinuating, that may be difficult. Having said that, do you think that at this stage, the complaints are not just about the civil war? You also have those who think the Queen didn't, help with the cause of colonialism, where there were issues of slavery, racism, and all of that in play during colonialism. So do you think at this point, for those who are hurting, not just, the professor, but all Southeastern brothers and sisters of ours, including all other African nations that were colonized and had to go through, the brutal experience of, slavery, racism, and the rest of them, do you think a formal apology will be enough to, suit their pain in that sense? A formal apology by the royal family or the UK government?
Definitely, it will go a long way to, diffuse the tension. One, the anger. Two, the hatred. Three, and there should be compensation. Not only the South is complaining. Remember, she was accused of masterminding the apartheid in South Africa, where the whites were doing everything to go over the South African country.
That's why I said all other African nations.
Until Nelson Mandela came up, and he was put in prison by the whites. But thank God today they are liberated. Even as Nigeria fought, I remember Sonny Okoso sang some song, Fire Soweto, apartheid. So what we are saying is that it will go a long way. There's no time you give the mouth food you will not eat.
Okay.
There's no time you will tender apology if you will not accept it. Let the royal family go back and listen to these pockets of complaints. If they are called pockets, if they are not plenty, let the royal family go back, call the House of Commons, call the government and authority. Look, there were injustice in some countries. Look at the one from the Southeast. Look at this one from South Africa. Look at that one from other nations. And we claim to have colonized them before they were given republic. What are we going to do? Let us tender, cover our face with cover our face and say, we are sorry to have done that.
Okay.
The era of Queen Elizabeth has gone. But this new era, new dispensation, let us see how we are going to remedy it. And let them speak the truth. Where there is injustice in the land, no matter whether the country is a republic or what, let there be a voice. There is no influencing. But let them speak a word. Let the whole world hear that they've condemned what is happening in that country. If they are super world power, when they face the world bows. So let them say something. And by so doing, advise compensation. And let them say wherever there's injustice in any part of the world, let them stand and condemn it.
Okay, Maz.
Balance should be able to do that.
Okay, Maz, you're talking about compensation. I mean, what will compensation be? We've seen in recent times repatriation of stolen artifacts and what have you, you know, during the course of colonialism, you know, these artifacts were stolen, and those cultural heritage meant a lot to the indigenous people of various African nations. Now, we've seen several European countries return those stolen artifacts as a means of, you know, ensuring that the bilateral relations gets better or improved in that sense. So when you talk about compensation in this sense, it's difficult to quantify, you know, compensation in a commensurate measure to the injustice that was meted out to these people. So what would be compensation for you? That's one. Then two, even when it comes to monetary value, in other words, if you are going to say, okay, pay Kenya because of the Mau Mau, you know, uprising, monetary compensation, or South Africa, you talked about apartheid, or Nigeria, the civil war, and all of that, is it still to the state government or to the indigenous people that were wronged? So in other words, if they're going to pay to Nigeria, are they paying to the federal government or paying to the Southeast that were wronged? But you look at it again, the Southeast doesn't have, you know, its own leader in that sense, so it's still going to go to the federal government's coffers. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, it is very easy.
Okay.
Whether it is monetary compensation or letter of apology,
Okay.
anyone can go. But then, let me tell you one thing. Recently, we heard that the stolen money was returned, or it was about to be returned to Nigeria.
Yeah.
And they said it must specifically be used for something like that.
Okay.
Then the compensation should be made to Federal Republic of Nigeria. One.
Okay.
Then they should put a footnote that it should be transmitted or transferred to the area that was treated wrongly.
Okay.
It should be directed to. Look, let me tell you now. You know, there was a case about Abacha loot.
Yeah.
The state government said it was their money stolen. The federal government, because of their wickedness, they enacted a law that when such money is recovered, it should go to federal court. Let there be an understanding that compensation, whether a monetary compensation or whatever, that it should be returned to the federal government of Nigeria, then directed to the area, the community, the state that was involved. That's my take about that. Then there's there's no how you can quantify compensation in monetary aspect of it when it involves debt. You cannot pay money to return the debt. The person has died. But let there be apology. The families involved should be adequately compensated, either by way of awards, by way of whatever manner. Let the world see that these people that have mistreated have been, at least a level of justice has been done to them. Whether monetary aspect or award or ordinary letter, it will go a long way to diffuse the anger, the tension in the land.
All right, now let's look at that's the tension from the British Empire. Now let's look at the tension within the probably the northerners and the southeasterners. We see that, like you had mentioned earlier, there could be a reconciliation of some sort. There could have been if the Queen had probably played a major role as it should, according to your statement. Now, having probably King Charles comes and says we want to reconcile or compensate for what has happened. How about the seeming hatred or anger within for the northerners by the easterners? What's the means of reconciliation since all of those things that has happened were not sorted when it should be sorted? Do you think there will be a way to unite these two regions together?
Yes, the hatred occasioned now, or that is playing out now, has been more pronounced for the past 7 years. In 1960, after the independence, 60s, 70s, 80s, it was not pronounced like this. It was not noticeable like this. Even when Obasanjo was there, it was not noticeable. Even when Yar'Adua was there, it was not noticeable. When Jonathan was there, it was not much noticeable. But it became glaringly clear during the present administration. And look at the injustice glaringly, and people are supporting them. I mean, equity is no longer there. Justice is no longer there. Fairness is no longer there. How on earth that the president will, the president of Federal Republic of Nigeria will come out and that we will treat them in the language you understand? One, that they are a common dot. What does that translate? He made mention of how they were treated when they were in the trenches during the Civil War. The hatred the present administration has created in Nigeria, it will take a long way. The same question was asked me last 2 weeks in one of their sister television stations. I said it will be difficult because one, they now cancelled the history of this country from the curriculum of Nigeria, primary and secondary school. They've cancelled it. The Lagos State has now brought it back, but moralize it. Now, to go about is that there must be a very sincere, genuine conference, get together. People from all walks of life in the country should be gathered together. How do I address this? Look at this 2023 election. Is it not supposed to be the turn of the Southeast? The North now is still saying that we have to go. Article has come up. Turumo has come up. Where is the position of the Southeast? These are injustices. And all of them are saying it is my right, it's my right. Turumo is saying it is my right. Article is saying it's my right, it's my turn. Where is the position of... we have 3 ethnic groups here. Majorly, the North, the South, and West. That is Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. The Hausa has ruled, the Yoruba has ruled. I hand over to the Hausa man. Hausa man has ruled now. The Yoruba wants to step up again. Where is the position of the Igbo man? Where is the position of the Southeast? That is injustice. For you to ask me how it to be addressed, we must start from the beginning. We must start from where we got this wrong. We got this wrong during this present administration. Let there be equity. Let there be fairness. Let there be transparency. Look, they have treated the Southeast as if they are no more. They are not existing. They have treated them as slaves. Those won during the war. That is what is happening. For the interest to be treated fairly, there must be a genuine reconciliation. There must be a genuine dialogue. There must be sincerity of purpose.
Okay. Well, Marty, like you had rightly said, sincerity of purpose is really important in combating injustice in every society. Well, hopefully this is done and we put an end to all of the rift and strife here and there, because we need a united Nigeria, and all of the arguments and rifts wouldn't help in achieving the common goal we look forward to. Thank you so much, Marty Chinedumobioha, for sharing your thoughts on this conversation. We appreciate your time on the show this morning.